Hi guys, welcome into Big Mo. This is the third video in the Side Gig Success series. The first one is about all the tools that you have to have. The second video is how to create all the tools. And the third video, which I'm doing today, is how to price out jobs and the tools that you're going to need to be able to do that. And at the end of the video, I'm going to talk to you about profitability of my attachments, dollar for dollar, what percentage of jobs I do with each, and what percentage of revenue I make on each. Thanks for being here. Let's roll. All right, guys, there are two things you need to know before you actually start quoting. So the first is going to be what we're going to talk about right now, and that is knowing what it costs you to go out the door, to be on the job and give quotes, etc. And all that rolls together in to help you come up with pricing. And I'm going to give you a great tool to do that. I'm going to give you 2 extra videos that you're going to need to watch. And you need to watch these if you're serious about your job. They're from Tractor Time with Tim. And he's a great guy. And I really liked watching his videos. The first of the 2 items you need to know before you can start quoting is what it costs you to go out the door. All right, I'm going to give you 10 items real quick, A through J. All right, so I'm going to roll through these pretty quickly. And I'm going to point your attention to them. You don't have to write anything down. I've posted the outline for this video in a Google Doc for you to download, so you don't have to take any notes. It's all right there for you. And also, I'm going to provide to you an amazing spreadsheet. All right, so I watched a video with Tractor Time by Tim, and he and his daughter, who is an agricultural economics major at Purdue, had this cost estimator spreadsheet, and it's phenomenal. So it goes over the categories that you must know. And, you know, I'm a banker, a former banker, and I know income statements and balance sheets like back of my hand. But there were some items that I had not included in this spreadsheet. Is fantastic. So instead of trial and error, now I know exactly what it costs me to go out the door and where I need to be if I want to make a certain dollar amount. So it gives me the exact information I need when I'm talking with a customer about a quote and how to respond when they give pushback. Okay, so let's talk about it. So what are the categories in this spreadsheet? First of all, you're going to estimate your activity, the number of jobs per year, the number of weeks per year you're going to do it, and about the number of hours per job. And just to give you a heads up with me, so last year I averaged 2 jobs a week over 26 weeks, and the average job is about 2.5 hours per job. Okay, now that's actually on-site work. Okay. The second item you're going to do on this spreadsheet is you're going to list all of your annual costs, and I'll have some numbers in there for you as well. So they're not costs of doing a job. Okay. They're costs of having a business. So what would that be? Well, it's going to be your liability insurance, which is for me is about a little under $1,100 a year. Bank fees, local fees, like we have to register our LLCs in Kentucky each year, whopping $15. Tax prep might be a couple $100. So those are your annual fees that you need to take into consideration. C is going to be your hourly costs. These next 3 items are your time. Okay. So item C is going to be the time that you are actually operating the tractor. All right. And what goes into that? Well, fuel, repairs, parts, labor, and then also depreciation. So they're all listed right there for you in the spreadsheet because everything adds up, right? And you have to know these numbers, okay? And once you know these numbers, you can be at rest. When you're quoting a job, you won't have any worries. All right, item D is your time before and after the job. All right. So that's loading up, that's greasing, that's changing air filters, that is fueling up, strapping down, hooking up your attachments, hooking up your trailer, all that kind of stuff. That's all before. Then traveling to the job, then you have to unload there, then you have to load back up there, then traveling back home, unloading, detaching, cleaning up if necessary, you know, putting stuff where it needs to go and put away. It's also going to include your mileage and fuel costs. So there's a spot in there where you plug in what the fuel cost per gallon, and then an average of, you know, in our case here, we're going to average 1 gallon per hour on the job. Okay, item F, the third time factor is your profit, and that is what you want to make per hour. In the video with Tractor Time by Tim, he and his daughter, they plug in $25 for their hourly wage. You know, I mean, I said, you know, what is it to make $100 an hour? And you'll find that you can get away with different profit margins per hour with different attachments. And that's why it's going to be important for you to watch at the end. You're going to be able to get an idea as to what your hourly profit can be per attachment. Okay. Now the next 3 items are going to be attachments that I've got links to. The first 2 are going to be the videos by Tractor Time with Tim. One of them talks about all the hidden costs and how to price jobs. And the main takeaway from that video, you need to watch it, but the main takeaway is you need to price it by job, not by hour. The second video is the one which I've just described, which goes over how to look at this and use this job cost estimator. Okay, which is essentially a spreadsheet. All right, so what do I earn per profit? Well, on some of my jobs, I'm 80, 85 bucks an hour, and on other my jobs, I'm well over 100 bucks. And I can get into almost 1,000 bucks an hour. Now, bush hogging, I'm not going to go out the door for a bush hogging job for less than 425 bucks. So I'm about 425 minimum to go do a 4-acre, 3-acre little parcel. But I prefer 750 bucks if I'm going to go do 5 acres, 750 bucks for 5 acres of land. And that's hard to get. And I know that it's hard to get. And I didn't stick at those prices my first year. I did a 10-acre job for 750 bucks. All right. The second item that you're going to need to know before you can start pricing jobs is your competition. So let's go over 6 different items about competition, and it's going to help you find out how sharp you need to be, what geographic location you might need to be, and what attachments you might want to consider to be purchasing or add to your inventory if you don't already have them. All right. So first is, who is your competition and how many of them are there? So Google, look around, call around, see what farm service companies there might be out there. Call around the landscape companies, how many of them there are. All right. That's the first thing. That's item A. B is you need to know where they operate. All right. So are they in your county? Are they in other counties? Are they only in a particular neighborhood? Do they only work by referral only? Do they advertise at all? Can you find them advertising anywhere? What other names come up when you're quoting jobs? You need to know who you're quoting against, if anybody. So item B is, where do they operate and where do they not operate? Because you want to know if there's an opportunity for you. So if they're only in 2 counties away, you found them on the internet, but they're only a couple counties away, you're golden. All right. Try to cover as many counties as you can that those other people aren't in. And then once you get a good reputation, move into that other county. Or maybe that's the most lucrative county and you just want to go head to head with them. Okay, fine. That's item B. Item C is, what services they offer and what do they not offer? What opportunities are there for you? In my last video, I talk about calling referral sources and find out if they do anything you do. If they don't do what you do, then ask them for referrals, and you can help them. And then the best way to get referrals is send them referrals. So if you start putting your signs out and people are going to ask you if you do regular mowing, if you start getting calls about that, then call that main guy. Don't refer it to somebody at the desk at the who's working the office at some landscape company. Send a text to the owner of the company that you've spoken with, and send them a referral, and then ask for a referral back. All right, so that's item C. Item D is find out what they charge. You're going to find that out once you get into the quoting process, but you can also pretend be a secret shopper, as we used to call in the banking industry a long time ago, and call them up and tell them what kind of job you have and see what they would charge you. See if there are. Item E, find out what they do well and what they do poorly. You might be able to see what they do well on their website if they have one, or any sort of communication that you can find. But you can also find out what they do poorly by listening to the customers that you are quoting jobs for. Ask them, when you go to quote a job, as you learned in my last video, when you're going to quote a job, you need to ask, who have you used in the past and what'd you like about them and what'd you not like about them? All right. So you need to find out what they liked and what they did not like. And then when you give your quote, you always talk about the things you can do that's along what they like. So if they want someone to show up on time, if that was what they did not like about the other people, then you stress that you will show up on time. If they did not like that they didn't do something, then you make an absolute note and you tell them, I'll make absolutely sure to get this taken care of for you. You can count on me. All right. So that's item E. Find out what they do poorly. What are their weaknesses in their messaging? Do they look sloppy? All that kind of stuff. And then item F is, see if they have a website, see if they have a Google profile, see if they're on Facebook, see if they're on Instagram, because you want to know how strong of a competitor they are. You want to know if they really have their act together. If they have their act together in their messaging and they're all in all these profiles and all that kind of stuff, and you see their advertising around, chances are they're going to be doing probably a pretty good job, and it's going to be hard to steal work from them. Okay. So that might be where you try to compliment them and do something that they don't do. So investigate how strong of a competitor they are by item number F, finding out if they have a presence out there in any of the profiles on any of the social media and also Google. All right, so now we've completed the first two items, which is knowing what it costs. You've watched those other two videos, and now you've done some work and finding out who your competition is. Now you can go out and give pricing. So, all right, item number 3, actually going out and giving pricing. So let's talk about that. I've got 3 items to talk to you about. They're not rocket science, but let's talk about them. All right, so first is going to be trial and error. Now, the great news about trial and error is you're not just going out and winging it, okay? Because you've already done the pricing spreadsheet and you've seen those videos and you've done some research on your competition. So now your trial and error is going to be based on some really good intel. Okay, you're just not going to be out there, yeah, I'll do it for $200. No, you know exactly what it's going to cost you. You know when to say no, and you know when to say yes, and you know when you're getting a great profit margin, and you know when you're not. And that's critically important. Try a price and see what they say. Now that you know what your profit margin is, you know that you've priced it kind of fat. And if they want you to come down, you know you're still making some decent money and whatever it might be. So say you price in $80 an hour and you actually are able, you can come down the price and get it for $50 an hour. Okay, great. Do it. Don't be afraid to charge what you're worth. And that's why it's important to know what you're worth. And that's where the spreadsheet comes in. But you got to realize that some jobs only earn so much. So item C is not all jobs are worth taking. And that is that, you know, if they get Joe Blow the neighbor to do it for $250, but through your calculator at making, you know, your minimum amount that you want to make in profit, you are priced at $400. You know, that's great, ma'am. Sir, you know, I'm so glad you've got him to do it for you. However, when he does not call you back and when he's too busy to get you taken care of, or when something's broken down, or when he's sick, or when he's moved out of town, give me a call. Yes, it's going to be a little bit more. However, you know, I'm going to show up. I will be there. I'll take excellent care of you. I'm going to get you squared away, blah, blah, blah. So that's the third item about giving quotes. All right. So when you're quoting, make sure you view my last video about that, because it's extremely important on how you use the tools that I've provided you in that last video about how to get business. All right, item number 4. And so discounts, you're going to want to give discounts in 4 situations. One would be to get in the door if it's going to be a recurring relationship. So what do I mean? Well, I had an example where I did business with a small horse farm operation. They asked me to bush hog the back of a dam. I did that. Then they picked me up doing regular steep roadside frontage for them every other week, all year long. Which has been great. And then they've had me do 2 different gravel driveway jobs on the farm. So there was a potential for other work there. And so I don't charge a whole lot for doing the every other week mowing of their steep roadside. All right. The second reason you might want to discount is if it means a recurring specific job. So I've got a customer that wants me to mow her 5-acre field every 2 weeks, and that's a recurring job. So I knock down what I would normally charge. Okay. The third would be it's the cost of learning. Okay. Now you've got to watch my last video about how to use the tools, right? So the very first bush hog job I ever did, you know, I got on a quarterly basis, did it for $400. Took me a couple hours, and you know, now I'm charging $525 for that. And I'm out 3 times a year doing it at $525, and I'm fine with that. So, you know, that meets my profitability requirements, and I'm happy about that. So cost of learning. The fourth item is for immediate action. Okay. So you're going to want to discount something if they give you approval immediately. There were 2 instances where I have used that. One is I had finished up a job and I went to do a quote, and I had my power rake on the trailer right there with me in my truck, and I gave them a quote. I said, normally it would be $1,350, but I'll do it for $1,100 if you say yes right now, because I can do it and I won't have to come back. And so he went in and talked to his wife, came back out, boom, did it. So the other item for discounting for immediate action is to call back the no's. So when you've given quotes to people and they've said no to you, call them back. Like I had a period of time where I didn't have a job, and that was a little strange. And so I texted a couple of these people back. I said, hey, I've got an opening in my calendar next Tuesday, and I can get you squared away and make your driveway look awesome. Fill in my calendar. I'm willing to offer you a discount of, you know, whatever it was, $200, $300, down to X number of dollars. if we can get taken care of next week. So one person said no, the other person said yes. Boom, I had a job the next week, and I did $1,000, and I was, it was a 2-hour job. So those are 4 ways you can offer discounts to help you get the job. So to learn more about giving quotes, actually presenting the quotes and what to say and do, not just figure out what the numbers are, which is more about what today's video is about, but to learn how to communicate with the customer, how to get more work when you're on the job, how to look, what to use, what tools to use. You got to see my last video on how I get more work than other people. All right, item number 5, let's talk about the profitability of my attachments. So the first one that I use is the Ventrac Tough Cut, which I refer to as the Bush Hog. It cost $4,000. I got it new, and it was the older version without the hydraulics to lift it up. I've got a hydraulic jack, and I can lift up the Bush Hog deck while it's on the tractor and not have any issues getting to it, so not a problem. So the Tough Cut deck does a really good job, but it is limited in what I can charge per job because there's a lot of people that do bush hogging, right? The competition factor. There's a lot of people out there that do it. Little Farmer Joe who wants to go make a couple $100 next door will spend $150 to make 200, and that's okay, right? That's awesome. Good for him, right? However, there are plenty of jobs out there where you're going to be able to $85 an hour bush hogging. My second implement that I use a lot is my power rake. And I do gravel driveways, and I bought that for $6,500 used. It only had a few hours of use on it, and it's the older model. The new model is $8,700, which are amazing. So now, what about the comparison between these two attachments? Well, the Ventrac Power Rake is 2.5 more times profitable. So you're making more money in a lot less time. So because they're shorter jobs, they're cleaner jobs, it's easier on your body, it's easier on the equipment. All right, the next item is there's very little competition, right? A box blade is half as effective, and it takes 4 times the amount of time. So the Ventrac Power Rake is pretty amazing. Now, what about as far as the number of jobs that I do? So I do 60% of my jobs are bush hog jobs, and about 40% of my jobs are with the power rake. However, I make 60% of my revenue with the power rake and only 40% with the Tough Cut. You try to do as many jobs as you can while you're out, right? So I'll try to schedule jobs on the same day, a couple jobs on the same day max. Now, if I'm doing a gravel job, I'm probably going to only schedule that on, 1 gravel job per day. Okay. Even though it could take a couple hours. If I'm waiting for gravel to arrive, you don't know if the trucks are going to arrive on time. All right. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. Like and subscribe. Thanks a lot. Talk to you real soon.